Hello, welcome back to Radio Free Gastonia, the internet's number one source for barely tolerable, um, slightly sufficient historical content. Uh, this is a little bit of a weird one, just because I've been thinking about a lot of things. We're going into a new school semester at my university that will start in about a week and a half. Um, and I'm back in the South. Um, you know, sort of my homeland. I was born in West Virginia. I lived in Indiana. I've never really claimed the South for myself, but the South is where I lived a large part of my life and my formative years. So I do have feelings about it, and I'm here now, and I've been thinking a lot about. I don't know. I've just been. This is kind of like a random thing, but like I've been thinking a lot about Southern music and um, our traditions of struggle. Um, I have to say, certainly living in New York and California, people who are not from the South have some very interesting ideas about the South, um, and I don't really blame them. I mean, like we're talking about Strom Thurmond here, like or Trent Lott, like um, Jesse Helms. This is not a great. This is not a profiles in courage exactly, but it is. That's the thing. Um, I know that like a lot of things about the South seem fucked up and weird and like, um, you know, uh, racist or misogynistic or homophobic. I know that people have those associations with the South, but what I would like to say is that um, the rest of this country fucking sucks too. Okay, first of all, that's the main thing. Um, if you go to rural eastern Washington, you're gonna find just even more like psychos with Confederate flags than you do here or upstate New York. I mean, like that's the country that we live in. I'm sorry, um, you can't pin it all on us in the South. This is just the nature of this country. But even beyond that, like, it's like when people kind of complain about, like, oh, fucking white women. I hate white women. White women are so horrible. Like 53% of white women voted for Trump. They suck. White women are the worst. It's like, well, the other 47% of them didn't vote for him. So, like, uh, I mean, like, where does that, like, where does it even get you? Like, yes, I mean, it is depressing that, like, a lot of white women voted for Trump, but, um, like, you still discounting the entire category of people because, slightly more, would they all be great if, like, 50.1% of them voted for, Biden or Kamala or whatever? Like, doesn't make sense. It just, you know what I mean. It doesn't make sense. That's the same thing with the South. I've always felt this way very deeply. You know, excuse me, I'm sorry. People in the South might have voted for Strom Thurmond or George Wallace, or Reagan or George H.W. Bush or George W. Bush. Yes, that is a thing that happened, but it's also a thing that happened in fucking like every other part of the country. Um, but like it's missing the point. When people make these kind of arguments, I'm like, I don't. What point are you trying to make? Oh, we all hate all white women. Southerners, they're horrible. They're stupid. It's like, well, I mean, this is a game of inches. Um, if things had just turned out slightly differently, like maybe things would be different, right? Um, and it ignores the long history of struggle. I think of somebody like Ella Mae Wiggins, who was a folk singer, a factory worker in the town that I grew up in, Gastonia. Her memory has been basically erased from the official record, but some people do know who she was. She worked in the textile mill, the Lurie Mill, and she had interracial relationships. You know, she was a radical for the 1920s in Gastonia, North Carolina. She ended up being murdered and killed and left in a ditch. So that's what happens to people who do things like that. But I feel like it just erases the history and the legacy and the worth and the value of all these people who have been trying so hard to change things. Yeah, we might lose. I mean, most of the time we do lose. Like, we lose all the time. Like, it's just not constructive. It doesn't help. And when I'm thinking about this, I think about a book that was written by the historian Patricia Sullivan. I believe it was published by UNC Press in 1986, called Days of Hope, Race and Democracy in the Great Depression. I'm sorry, I don't want to pull it up right now, but Days of Hope by Dr. Patricia Sullivan. I've always loved this book because it is about like the South during the 1930s and 40s, when I wouldn't say things were great. I mean, like, there's like extremely racist, horrific governments that are in power in basically the entire former Confederacy, the entire South. But what Sullivan was talking about, it really, like, it's always, I mean, I guess as somebody who grew up in North Carolina and was involved in activism and politics and, wanting something better. Like, I want better for everybody. In reading Sullivan's book, it just, I've in the course of my career and my like research and writing, I've learned a lot about a lot of the people, particularly in North Carolina, who were like white liberals who were trying to go up against the establishment, and obviously tons of black people were also trying to go up against it, and seeing it as a position of hope, Days of Hope, as Patricia Sullivan put it. And not just, the South's so stupid, everybody's racist, they're all like, there's no hope. Like, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, they're beyond redemption. These were people who were working really hard, and they wanted to try to take whatever opportunity there was to make things better. And I don't know, I feel like I'm repeating myself too much here, but like, we're not going to get anywhere if we only focus on everything that's negative. And I know I sound like a self-help guru type person, which is like very contrary to my nature, but if we look back, somebody like Thurgood Marshall, somebody like Du Bois, they were going up against a lot. And anyone could have told them, like, you're an idiot, you're stupid, like, you're never going to win. Like, why are you even bothering doing this? But I think in the United States, especially in early 2025, I do think we find ourselves at a point where we're going to have to think really big, because we have some big structural impediments in front of ourselves. And so I think, somebody said that, like, Jim Crow was the nadir of Black life in America. I can't remember who said it, but, like, it never quite made sense to me, because I was like, I'm pretty sure slavery was the nadir of Black life in America. But I do know what they mean when they say that, which is that yes, like the 1900s to about the 1950s, pretty dark time for black people in America, especially in the South. Um, like, like the infrastructure of Jim Crow had been firmly put into place. Um, you know, just like voting restrictions, and like housing restrictions, just everything that you could imagine had been fully put into place. So I do understand why people would say like the 1920s, 1930s, maybe the nadir of Black life in America, but people who were part of the NAACP, people who were part of labor movements and the Communist Party and whatnot, they didn't just like sit down and say, "Oh, well, the people in the South are stupid and racist and fucked up, and I hate them." They tried to fight every single inch, and that's what I hope that we can do. I know, this is not a very encouraging circumstance. This recent presidential election was maybe not exactly what some people would have liked to have seen happen. Um, it seems like we have like unified government under the Republican Party, which we'll see how that turns out. But I actually think it's not going to be quite as effective as they think, because I don't think they know what they're doing. But we need to, and when I say we, I mean like the left, liberals, people of good faith and good heart who want to see a better life for this world. Um, we have to just move forward and change our tactics and strategies based on the current situation. Our enemy is not as strong as they seem, I think. And if you were somebody like Martin Luther King, who was going to prison or jail, I guess, and just not knowing, like, these people have actually killed me. Like, I mean, there's every reason for Martin Luther King to have thought that he would have been murdered and killed in that Birmingham jail. And he was writing his thoughts on these little scraps of paper that eventually became the letter from Birmingham jail. If I were him, I was like, these people are absolutely going to kill me. And unfortunately, they did not, although they did a few years later. More on that later. But I just want, as a woman from the South, I'm not saying the South is the best. We have a lot of problems down here, but a lot of great things came from the South, like the blues and jazz and Martin Luther King and like Jimmy Carter. I don't want anyone to write off the humanity and the seriousness of the people who live here, because maybe we're 42% versus 58%. Maybe we're 49% versus 51%. Maybe we're the minority in an electoral situation, but that means there's a bunch of people here who really want things to change. And you can say that in Wisconsin or New Hampshire or wherever. Like, just because of an electoral outcome, it doesn't mean that everybody here is a fucking psycho. If we want to do the hard work that people like MLK, Fred Shuttlesworth, all of our preceding civil rights activists and leaders, John Lewis, Septima Clark, they were up against way worse things than we were, and they still fought like hell. So I think we should do them the respect and the favor of actually giving a shit and actually trying. So that's all I'm saying. I know that these are times that try men's souls. This not a great situation. No, that's for sure. But if we're gonna have any hope of getting out of this, we have to look back to our predecessors like Rosa Parks or King, um, they were up against things that were way scarier than what we're up against, I think. Um, and yet they still did what they did. And we can do that too. Um, it's going to take some time. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I know that most of the people, if anybody's listening to this, almost everybody would actually be perverted enough to actually listen to this. Uh, Probably shares the values that I do, help for the poor and working class, support for unions and labor representation, protection for um, uh, LGBT rights, the rights of women to control their own lives, all these things. It's not that hard to figure out. um, these are normal human things, and I think we can do it. So, just hang in there, be patient. It might be a rough couple of years, but if you believe in something, you really do ultimately believe in it. If you don't believe in it, then that's fine. You don't have to care. But I think anybody who's watching this probably does care. And so, this is Radio Free Gastonia, the internet's only source for just barely good enough historical content. And I will see you next time. All right, bye.